So, a couple of charts I want to show you. We're going to start with a sewer, phase 3, because that's where you were just talking. So this is our third phase. Phase 1 was a little more than this. Phase 2 was a little less. The 3 phases together average about $42 million a year. This one's $40,500,000. And for context, in the second box, we of course qualify for 0% financing, but let's assume for a moment we didn't. If we had to borrow at 4% per year, this would be about $2.3 million per year in debt service. Because we have a 0% loan, the difference between these two numbers is approximately, Jen Mintz?
$1 million?
$1 million, that's correct. And we're going to borrow for a period of 30 years where we're going to save $1 million per year. So that savings over 30 years is, Mef Runyon?
$30 million?
That is correct. And times the 3 downtown projects, interest savings of $30 million a year, times 3, the total interest savings would be, Kevin Galligan?
90 million.
90 million, that's correct.
Yikes.
Now, when we look at the tax impacts
We are listening.
on the individual, that part of the savings never appears. All they ever see is what is the additional cost on my tax rate? What is the additional dollar amount I'm going to pay per year? Let's not forget the tremendous savings. I know it's an expensive project, but let's not forget the work that was done to get to this point. So, again, betterments, if we assume there's a 20% betterment, we don't know. It's all we have to work with. It may be higher, may be lower. This debt service would be a little over $1 million a year. Based on FY25 assessed values, that would add about 16 cents to the tax rate. This is some new information here, about $136 a year on an $850,000 home. I think this is a useful percentage. It's about a 2.5% increase in that individual's taxes. That doesn't change regardless of your assessment. Everybody would see about a 2.5% increase on their bill. That's about $11.33 cost per month on this house. Now, I picked this value. Brad did some work down here. There's some Brad notes here. These are high notes, I call them.
Thank you, Brad.
The class of properties that have the largest amount are those valued at $1 million to $1 million, both for year-round and seasonal. The numeric average value, however, is just under 1.2 million because it gets skewed by the high-end properties. So part of the problem is, well, what value do we want to use? When you say the average homeowner, do we want numeric?
Service area.
Do we want the one that encompasses the most homes? Essentially, if we take the tax rate and multiply it by 850, that's how many thousand this example takes into account, gives us this number. If your property was valued at 1.2 million, we would take the tax impact times 1,200. That's kind of the math you do. This would change, this would change, this would not. Your percentage would remain the same. So in terms of the next phase of the sewer, this permanent borrowing wouldn't occur until FY29 at the earliest. So we're trying to use FY25 valuation numbers to predict something we might see in 4 fiscal years hence. Becomes difficult. Now, Brad couldn't take this assessed value and punch it out at growth of X amount per year over 4 years. We could come up with something that may be more attuned to where we're going to be in 4 years. But if this came online right now and we paid it right now today, this is your tax impact. Yes?
Scotty, I have a bizarre question. I'm thinking back to kind of the crash in terms of real estate values. If the community happens to lose real estate values rather than the steady climbs we've been seeing,
Yeah.
how does our ability to pay for this change?
Okay, so there is an inverse function there. If the assessed values go up, the tax rate implication goes down. Brad just quickly came up with an estimate for FY26 for this value. Of course, it's higher.
Yeah.
So the tax rate impact is a little lower. So the opposite would occur. If values were to fall, the tax rate impact would increase. It's an inverse relationship. Now, of course, the large whale in the room is the firehouse project.
So